And we have made it to May 1st, and we are off doing another round of Retro Championship Wrestling. We're in the Indies, and this will be the last card of the Indies. They're going to get incorporated into the 4 other circuits: North, East, South, and West. Because we have a lot of Indies, and we are changing kind of the definition of the Indies to grapplers and teams that have had 5 bouts or less, get them some experience. And to be eligible for the big titles, you have to have 5 matches under your belt if you're a single and 3 matches if you're a tag. So we start with a match between Jim Lundos, who lost to Billy Joyce in his first time out on a flash pin. And he's facing Boris Malenko, who's filling in for Killer Kowalski, who is filling in for Giant Haystacks. As we had some injuries, and we have kind of changed the card a little bit because I want to give the men who have had 5 bouts or less experience. So Malenko making his debut, Lundos 0-1, losing to Billy Joyce on a flash pin in about a minute. I think it was under a minute. And these will be 1 fall, 30-minute time limit bouts. And the Indies will take place on an afternoon card. Then that will be preceded by the main card, which will be like, say, 7 o'clock or something like that. So, the matinees will be worth it in the world of RCW. So this should be a good bout. Lundos is very capable. I think he will be a future champion someday. But right now, he's got to get some matches under his belt. And Lundos cut early. And this is not a good start for him. And we didn't get a good look as to who the assailant was. One of those crazed old ladies that sometimes attack for no reason. I forgot to get water, but we'll try to get through this first match. So it's about even with the cut that Mondo suffered. Flying forearm by Malenko does not get it done. Malenko once did a commercial in the mid-70s here in the Tampa, Florida area for Badcock Home Furniture, where he wrestled a mattress. Somewhere in my files I have that. And Lundos is pinned again. I don't believe it. I do not believe it, folks. A flying leg drop out of nowhere, and Boris Malenko has defeated Jim Lundos. Lundos goes to 0-2. So we'll be seeing a little more of Boris Malenko, who's already gloating with Mr. DB announcer. At ringside. Gordon Soley was Mr. TV announcer. For those of you who followed 60s and 70s Florida wrestling. Mr. TV announcer. Okay. So lightning striking again. Of course, he is the father of Dean Malenko. Maybe that's who assaulted Jim Londos. We'll just play with that for a little bit. So Malenko with a big pinfall win, 1349. Oh, God. Malenko's, Londos' start in RCW has been cursed. You'd think Denhausen had something to do with it. Okay, it's going to take a brief timeout. We'll get to our next match. Stand by. Well, our second bout ought to be a hootenanny between Kevin and Kerry Von Erich and the Wild Samoans. The Wild Samoans making their tag debut against the Von Erichs, who have only had one bout and won that bout against the fabulous kangaroo tandem of Costello and Heffernan, which we were using in the early days of RCW until we started using the combo of Al Costello and Don Kent. And Alpha and Seeker are pretty big boys, so the Von Erichs are going to have to change tactics to move around them a bit. And we start this 30-minute time limit bout. So we have 5 world titles, which means one of the indie circuits, well, the 4 circuits left will have indies, and one of those circuits, which will be the South this time, will have the surprise of getting the title defense the other 4 circuits didn't want, which may likely be the World Brass Knucks tag titles that we will see later tonight. Well, actually, I'm doing this morning. Samoan drop. No, sir. We're 8 minutes in, and the Samoans doing well. Of course, they were the often decorated WWF World Tag Team title holders under the tutelage of Captain Lou Albano, who in RCW is managing the World Champion Kangaroos, led by Al Costello and Don Kent. Oh, this is trouble here for the Von Erichs, but Brass Knucks entered the ring and were used, but it could not get a pin. But the Samoans are dominant here. They have all 4 pin attempts so far. Claw being used, we'll say it was by Kevin. Kevin, of course, is the only one of those men, Von Erichs, who is still alive. Von Erich double team has Alpha busted open. And on we go with this bout. Double headbutt by the Samoans, but the Von Erichs counter that. Flying body press. Nope. Von Erichs getting back into the bout. They were way behind at the 10-minute juncture, but now they have clawed, no pun intended, back into it. 21:43. Still, Von Erichs have not taken a lot of damage, but Samoans have not gotten a hold off in the last, I would say 20 minutes. And now they get one. They get a belly-to-belly suplex on, we'll say, Kerry. Just about nearing the end, and the Von Erichs score a pin at 27-25. But the Samoan shove the initial referee down. A second referee initially had the pin discus punch by Kerry landing on Alpha, but it was a dusty finish. Confusion reigns as the referee. A second referee came and counted the pin. But after a conference with the initial referee, the verdict is overturned to a DQ. So that's what happened, folks. So the Kerry and Kevin tandem, we've had a few Von Erich tandems, but they will go to 2-0. Probably see them in the north. Although I guess they could claim German heritage and go over to the east in the eastern Indies. Yes, right? Like, wasn't Fritz von Erich, a bad guy in the 50s? And did the goose stepping and did the Nazi salute and all that. Okay, so that is in the can. Von Erichs now go to 2-0, and the Samoans 0-1. On to our third bout, which will be a good one. Gorilla Monsoon would be rated number 1 in the world, but he has only had 2 bouts. He's rated ahead of Nick Buckwinkle, actually. So it's going to be Babyface Gorilla against Lars Anderson, who we have seen a few times. Lars, at one point, was the host of a wrestling show on what became the USA Network, based out of Hawaii. I think it was Polynesian Pro or something like that, but it actually had a national TV deal in the early days of USA. I think it might have been Paramount UA, Paramount United Artists Network, which was what USA was initially called. But they at one point, and so did the outfit out of San Antonio. Which ran a feud between the infamous Bruiser Bob Sweetan and Tully Blanchard. Look up Bob Sweetan. He was not a good guy. So Monsoon and Anderson, this will be Lars Anderson's last foray here in the Indies, as he'll have 5 bouts under his belt after this. And Lars has to be careful around the enormous bulk of Gorilla Monsoon. Couple of chops to start off this bout, a 1 fall 30-minute time limit. And double chop to the head by Lars, and Gorilla says, "Will you stop?" Monsoon through the ropes, which would be an interesting sight to see. Gorilla with a lead here. Of course, he once exchanged holds with Muhammad Ali in 1976, which made the network sports shows. The day after the triple overtime game between the Celtics and the Suns, it was heavily promoted on the CBS broadcast of the game, anchored by Brent Musburger. Brent Musburger is now almost 87. He'll be 87 later this month. So this is about dead even. I guess you could call this a defensive battle. And now Lars has been taking over the last few minutes. He's put a string of holds together. Cradle on Lars. No. Draw really doesn't hurt Gorilla's chances here. We'll probably see him in the Northern Indies. Might be in line for a title shot against Luthez if he wants it. Step over armbar. Nope. Not going to get a submission here. So it's been all Lars the last, 15 minutes or so. Pin on Lars does not go. Down to the final moments. Inside cradle. Nope. I read Gorilla Monsoon's book a few months ago. He was a very agile man when he was an amateur wrestler in upstate New York. Airplane spin body slam. Can't count it because the time expired, so this is a draw. A time limit draw, which I don't think hurts Gorilla's cause any. Might be good for Lars, too. They went the full 30. 2.5 stars, and Monsoon pin attempts 5-2. So we're 3 bouts down and 5 to go. Okay, so that bout is done. We got an interesting little bout here coming up. We'll see Toshiaki Kawada. Underrated junior heavyweight who is a heel here. And he will be facing Don Curtis. Curtis, part of a tag team with Mark Lewin back in the 50s and 60s. Actually had a heel run in the Northeast for a stretch. So this is another bout where these guys have only met. This will only be the second bout for each. They each went to draws in their first bout. Each against John Cena, if you can believe that. And off we go. We're at the halfway point of this card. We got another interesting singles bout that only the Indies could provide. Oh, Curtis cut right away at 144. So let's see how that'll affect this bout. Curtis was a legend down here in Florida, was the promoter in Jacksonville. I think I said in a previous video that I once went to the Jacksonville Coliseum, 1992, to watch a WCW card that had, I forget the name of the card, but it had the War Games match at the end, and it got 5 stars. So, one of my accomplishments in life is I got to see a 5-star rated match by Dave Meltzer. So Curtis leading despite the cut, and we have a double count out. Double count out at 11:26. So we're halfway home, folks. 127, 60, 13. Okay, so that's typed up. And we will do our last. Let me see how we're running on time here. Oh, only 14 minutes between matches 2 and 4. So on to about between Ivan Putski and Jackie Pallo. This may, I think we used Pallo before. And both of these guys had a little bit of mainstream media attention during their career. Putski was on one of the early episodes of The World's Strongest Man that CBS ran as a series back in the 70s. And Jackie Pallo was on an episode of the British comedy Are You Being Served in the late 70s. So yeah, both these men have had bouts. Putski is 1-0. He defeated Emil Zaha by countout right after Zaha had defeated Hulk Hogan in the West. And Pallo took Billy Robinson to a double countout. We'll be seeing him in the Eastern Indies. Pallo is called Mr. TV. Wrote a book called You'll Grunt, I'll Groan, which for British wrestling kind of exposed the business. And we're underway with this 30-minute time limit. Now, there is audio for Wrestling's Finest. I don't use it because when there is a count, it's Vince McMahon back in his TV days saying 1, 2, like that. You know, McMahon's has one of those trademark voices, so I don't like using McMahon. Plus, as history has proven, McMahon was not a nice guy. Uh, so Pallo is cut on the ringside barrier at 4:18. Pallo, nope. Pin attempt on Pallo, no. Pallo giving up noticeable size here. He was like a junior heavyweight. In British wrestling, they had weight classes like they do in boxing. Polish Hammer, DQ. A DQ on Putski. So Pallo is DQ'd. Putski will win by DQ. When Giant Haystacks interferes. So that mystery achievement is now known. Wasn't a great bout, only 1.5. The worst bout would be 1.0, but Husky sees his advantage after the cut, landing a Polish hammer. But Giant Haystacks, who was originally supposed to be on the card, runs in on Putski, making his MO own modus operandi. Okay, so that bout is done. Nothing else happened post-match. We'll be back with our title bouts almost immediately. Our first of 3 championship bouts is in the ring. It is the Hart Foundation against the Masked Assassins, who drew with the Road Warriors a couple of weeks ago to get this title shot. Now, the Hart Foundation is 4-0-2. They are grandfathered into the Indies until they drop the belts. And as we were saying, the Masked Assassins are 0-0-1. And the Foundation haven't lost in 6 bouts, but this is a solid test for Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil. And we have one more segment to tape after these 3 bouts, which is going to be our new ranking system, and I will show you how it works. 60-minute time limit. Oh, I forgot to waive the cut rule. It did not come into play in any of the bouts, and I just thought about it now. And if it did come into play, I would just do the bouts again, and you would never have seen it. So early on, it's about even. The Assassins leading slightly, but here come the Hearts with a series of moves. Hart Foundation have landed a whole bunch of moves in a row to take advantage. And the Masked Assassins were Jody Hamilton and Tom Renesto. And Renesto makes a few appearances on YouTube, being a promoter in Memphis, defending his son, Tom Renesto Jr., who was bloodied in a bout on Georgia television. I would say the pre-Soli era, like around 73, 74. Back before Ray Gunkel died, and Ann Gunkel ran a rival promotion, and that promotion war in 74. Now the Hearts are leading again. They have 2 attempts to 1 here, but there's a lot of action. Could we see the Assassins win the Indy title in their second bout? And once the Hearts lose, they go to the northern region. Specialty move. Heart attack. Countered. So we are about 24 minutes in. The Hearts have been doing well. Near pin there on a body slam. Double team. And right now it's looking like the Hearts will retain, but we got to get to that finish yet. For an object, of course the Assassins are going to try something underhanded. Now they double team the Hearts. And we're halfway through our tag team title bout. We could go 60. It's very rare that we have a 60-minute bout in tag team action, although we had a bout between Bruiser, Brody, Stan Hansen, and Ric Flair, Greg Valentine go 66. And with the Brass Knucks titles, there is no time limit. It's just, win any way you can, win any time you can, that kind of bout. Pile driver by the Assassins connects, and a small lump of copper used by Jody Hamilton. Assassin number 1, we will call him. It's not get it done. They're picking up some pin attempts, and they have narrowed the gap as we head to the 40-minute mark. Pin attempts are even at 5 all. Another pin attempt. Nope. Nope. On that pin try. A pile driver. And we have a conclusion. Double count out. Maybe an off night for the champions. And we'll see if the Assassins are highly ranked after that, and could get a title rematch. Pretty good bout, 4.5 stars, just under the 5. Which is what you get if it's an exceptional bout. Okay, so that bout inconclusive. We will go to our indie title bout. Now, Lopez has had several bouts in the indies, but I used him on one occasion, and he has been the champion of the indies since. And he will get John Tolos. Tolos is teamed up with his brother Chris and has had title shots. I think they had an indie title shot at one point. So this is our semi-main. Tolos went to a draw against Shawn Michaels, and this is the 13th bout for Fez, so he goes back to the north when he loses. If anybody winds up beating him he might be champion a while. There is your hold trading screen, and off we go with this bout, our semi-main event. Bruiser, Brody, Stan Hansen against the High Flyers, who were the initial Brass Knucks title holders. It's going to be our second bout. So Fez will travel the Indies, the north, south, east, west Indies, and he will visit two regions putting up his Indy title. So this about even. Fez with the slight lead. He's a very tough man to get a pin on when using his 50 to 65 card. Fez press. Oh, nearly ended there. And Chris Tolos came to ringside and rang the timekeeper bell. And Fez thought he had won the bout. Ref saw what happened. We were like, we're way too early for 60 minutes to have gone by, and the bout continues. Nice try, Chris. And Tolos just goes nuts on Fez. Bloodies him up and lands several chair shots. But Fez will walk away uninjured from all of that. About went 13:42. Tolos goes nuts attacking Fez. Probably got a little help from his brother Chris. So maybe we have a no DQ bout between Fez and Tolos in one of the Indy cards. So Fez winning, and actually Tolos suffered his first loss. So on to our main event, and this ought to be a cracker. No DQ. With the Japanese tag teams to get the Bruiser, Brody, Stan Hansen combination. It's a world title defense against the High Flyers. Unlikely champions of the Brass Knucks titles. One fall. No time limit. Fight to the finish. Brody and Hansen are In their 7th bout, 3 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. The Flyers are actually 1-4-1, but I do not count Battle Royal results in with the head-to-head matches, because how do you score in the simple rating system? How would you score a Battle Royal? But at any rate, the Flyers are a team that can contend. The only win they have is against the Kangaroos, and the Brody Hansen combo, who are the world champions, have not lost in their last 2 bouts. Their last loss was to the Blackjacks by a DQ out west. So on we go with this bout. This ought to be good. And I'll get the matches scored, and the champs are out to a good start, and we'll show you the top 10s, which will exclude anybody who has less than 5 single bouts, 4 or less, and 2 tag bouts or less. So we don't have any quirky rankings. Oh, and we have blood, but blood was expected in this kind of bout. So 9.5 minutes left. 9.5 minutes gone by, and Bruiser and Stan are just piling up loads of damage on the high flyers. And you kind of wonder how long will this bout go with the damage that they have been taking. Flying punch does not get the pin. More chair shots by Brody and Hansen. But remember, these bouts are no DQ for the Brass Knucks tag titles. Flying knee drop does not score. The pinfall, another pin attempt quickly coming, but again, doesn't get it done. And they are just taking the challengers all around the ring and just beating the stew out of them at the 20-minute mark. This isn't a match. This isn't a match. This is a mugging right now that you're seeing in the ring right before your very eyes. Pin attempt there by the Flyers does not get it done. They're starting to get a little bit of continuity going as we now go past the 25-minute mark. There's a section where Brody and Hansen are in the ring and the Flyers are getting in, and Brody is just stomping on them, kicking them out, saying, "Permission to enter has been denied." Another pin attempt does not score. Another pin attempt does not score. They have racked up 9 pin attempts to the Flyers' 5, and we are approaching the half-hour mark. Oh, and more blood. Wicked. Chair shot to the head. Not Brody, but Gagny's face is now a crimson mask. Oh! Brunzell now busted open. Flyers try to score a flash pin, but not to be. Another flash pin attempt. No. They better hurry and try to get something going here because they are running out of blood. And that fatigue's gonna kick in one of these times. That's now 11 pin attempts for Brody and Hansen. And here it comes, the Lariato. And Brunzell is finally pinned at 37.51. Wow. So Brody and Hansen win by pinfall to retain on a Hansen lariat on Jim Brunzell. I want to read that book of Hansen's that he wrote for Crowbar Press called The Last Outlaw. I got a 5-star bout, but it was because the Flyers just kept taking damage. So, with these bouts adjudicated, I'm going to stop tape for a minute and we'll get you to the rankings as my cell phone goes off again. So let's show you what has happened in the rankings. You actually have to go all the way to the top. Boris Malenko is now the top indie. He's the only guy in positive numbers right now. This is the column you watch, the simple rating system rating. And with Malenko pinning Lundos, he has done well. So we got to go all the way down to the negatives. You know, a bunch of guys that have not competed yet. And Bockwinkel is number 1. Monsoon would not be rated yet because he's only had 3 bouts. Roland Bach will be number 2, so it will be Bockwinkel against Bach for the world's title in the East. Murcielago Velasquez is number 3 in this system. Who would have thought that? Fez is 4. Emil Zaha is 5. Lars Anderson is 6. Antonio Inoki 7, Jerry Lawler 8, Stan Hansen 9, and Otto Wantz would be number 10 in this system. Now we go to the tag summary. The Kalmakoffs are actually now the top rated indie team, but we're looking for the teams that are eligible, so that would be Cowboy Bob Ellis and Johnny Valentine first. Bucanero and Ultimo Guerrero second. The Nightmares are third. The Blackjacks are fourth. Rock and Roll Express, who are still without a title, are fifth. The Samoans will now be in the Indies. The Funks are 6. Bruiser, Brody, Stan Hansen 7. Dos Caras Mil Máscaras 8. Harley Race, Larry Henning would be 9, and the Hearts would be number 10. But a lot of these teams are maybe inflated in terms of their ranking because they have only had a little more than the minimum number of bouts, or 3 or more, and just a little more than bouts, whereas some of the teams lower down in the rankings are more battle tested. So that's pretty much how this is rolling right now. Hope you enjoyed today's card. I enjoyed doing it over the last few minutes. This is Big Paulie. Godspeed, God bless. We'll be back tomorrow with some Time Travel League baseball after men's breakfast at church. So we'll look for that in the early afternoon. And bye-bye for now, everybody. Take care.